Okay, lesson 16. The next Kriya, Trataka, described in Sutra 31, chapter 2 of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Sutra 31 tells us, then Trataka is described, look with fixed eyes without blinking at a minute object with concentration till tears are shed. The teachers call this Trataka. A little side note, the book was translated from Dutch to English by a Dutch student of Ajita, and he used winking instead of blinking. You know what winking is, right? So a little bit funny. There are other things I will explain later. He made some errors with grammar that can be a little bit confusing. I will explain when we come across that. Look with fixed eyes without blinking at a minute object with concentration till tears are shed. So what do people do? They tie a needle to a thread and they dangle it in front of their eyeballs and they don't allow themselves to blink. Apart from the fact that can be dangerous, this is really not what this is about. The other words that are mentioned here are important. Blinking means no interruption. With concentration, that is the key word here. This is the start of mind control. Fix your eyes, not your physical eyes, fix your attention on a minute object, on one single object, without blinking, which means concentration, without interruption. It's the start of meditation, in fact. Concentration, meditation. Until tears are shed. I don't know if you experience this too, but every time when I finish the meditation, my eyes are moist. I'm shedding tears as a result of concentration. Not that it is dangling or rolling over my cheeks, but my eyes are wet. I always have to rub my eyes before opening them. It's here. It's in the text. Not from dangle. You can stare at a candle, the flame of a candle. It can be very calming. But it can also lead to teary eyes, but that is not the point. This is a mental exercise. If you do the Kriya exercises literally according to the text, there is no coherence. There is no logical build-up. There is no systematic approach. But when you read the meaning behind the symbolism, it all starts making sense. It all starts falling into place. They do not stand on their own like nothing else in yoga stands on its own. Everything is connected. Everything has a reason and a purpose. As soon as it stands on its own, you have to ask yourself, what is the use of this? What is the purpose of this? How does this come into play? And if you can't find a reasonable explanation, you need to look for the logic behind it. You need to contemplate the issue. We had Dauti first. Shiva energy in. This is just to familiarize ourselves with the flows of energy. Shakti energy out. Then we had Shakti in with Vashti, sucking up water through a bamboo tube, through the anus, and expelling the water. Then we had Neti that brought our attention to the mental body, where the potential is located for mind control, concentration, meditation, which is Trataka. So here, you have Ajna Chakra, the mental body, and now you start actually focusing. The minute object mentioned in the text is nada for me. Concentration on nada. You can concentrate on the spot between your eyebrows. You can concentrate on basically any kind of object as long as you stick to that object. But nada is the best tool because it is within us, and by concentrating on nada, we generate more of that precious energy. Meditation starts with concentration. We do concentration on nada in practical terms in daily life that will integrate in a way that you'll be much more focused on whatever it is that you do. Work, study, chores. The result of the things that you do improves considerably as a result of introducing concentration meditation in your life, because it seems like a luxury doing that sitting here on your cushion, but it changes something inherently in the way that we function in daily life. And so it is of incredible value in our daily lives. How does concentration work? You focus on, in our case, nada, without blinking, without allowing yourself to be distracted. You will be distracted. That is human nature. The mind is restless. There is a constant flow of thoughts going on that we are most of the time not conscious of. Subconscious thought flow. When you sit there with your eyes closed, you become more conscious of that thought flow, and you see that it is interfering with your attempt to concentrate on nada. The blinking of the eyes is the subconscious thought flow disturbing your concentration. So what do? When you have a thought, here all your energy is concentrated inwards towards nada. A thought is energy, and a thought that is not related to nada is energy going out. You're losing energy, scattering energy. At some point, you become aware of this thought. You sit there in silence, your eyes closed, listening to nada, concentrating on nada. Some thought distracts you. Often we are not immediately aware of it, but there comes a point here where suddenly you realize, I'm not with nada anymore. And regardless of the importance of the thought, in the beginning it's really important that the moment that you are aware of the distraction, that you say, no, back to nada. And this will happen 100 times. It happens every few seconds in the beginning. Distraction, back to nada. This is literally thought control. Every time you have a thought that is not related to your object of choice, whether that is nada or something else, can be your work or study. The moment that you are conscious of the distraction, you simply deny the thought and go back. And you do that again and again. I would almost use the word relentlessly. For the time that you set yourself. That is Trataka. The introduction of the use of the mind in a controlled way. 32. By Trataka, all diseases of the eyes are removed and sloth, etc. are overcome. It should be carefully kept secret, like a golden casket. Carefully kept secret like a golden casket. Here you have it again. It's not the first time that we come across this advice. There are several explanations for this, urging you to keep this secret. Last time we came across this, I told you that yoga is empowering people, but it can be used in a negative way, in a destructive way. You don't want to empower people who will then use it to commit evil. I explained that to avoid this, yoga has to start with a foundation of yama and niyama. But there is another reason for this advice to keep what we are doing secret. If I had started the course, lesson 1, with this idea, you would probably not have come back the week after. It goes too fast. We build it up slowly and systematically so that you connect the dots, and when something new is introduced, it only makes sense. So, in the same way, you have learned yoga with a proper systematic build-up, and for you, although you may be a little bit skeptical, but you start to see a picture, it starts kind of to make sense. Intuitively, you can feel that this is going somewhere. But it can happen that you are enthusiastic and you say, wow, what is this? And you go home and you tell your friends or your parents or your partner, you say, wow, look what I learned today. Here, Kriya, amazing. And they will start scratching their head and thinking, oh my goodness, did you become a member of a cult or something? You really into this? They start thinking that you're going a little bit coco loco. Don't forget that this was written 1,000 years ago. There was the time when people who possessed supernatural abilities were accused of witchcraft and often killed for that. Because people with no intellectual functioning, they function like animals, and anything that they are not familiar with is scary, is a threat. And what do you do with threats? You kill it, you eliminate it. The world was full of such violence in the past, of people simply reacting upon fear. Don't forget that statistically, 50% of all people died prematurely because of violence. Until only fairly recently, if you look at the time scale of history, until only a couple of 100 years ago, more than 50% of all people born on this earth died prematurely only by violence. They were killed by people who are not familiar and are scared and simply think, I need to wipe it out. Witch hunts are part of that. People with special abilities, they had to keep it secret to avoid the danger of being accused of witchcraft and then being killed. In the worst case scenario, being horribly tortured before being killed. In our case, in the modern time that we live in, just avoid being accused of being crazy, having become a member of a cult or something. If you want to talk about yoga, talk about practical things. But if you start talking about energy and that you can control it and direct it, then people really start scratching their head if they do not have the same kind of introduction that you had from the beginning of this course. All right, time to put it into practice. Well, you've been doing this from the beginning, concentration on nada. We can just take all these jumps, skipping all these steps, because this is a preparation for totally illiterate people, uneducated people, people with no functioning of the intellectual body to speak of.